Ancient Egypt's social condition and administration, social system. Social class distinctions and lifestyle. In the ancient kingdom, Egyptian society was divided into 5 classes: royal family, feudal lords, priests, middle class, and serfs and slaves. In theory, the land was in the hands of Pharaoh. In practice, he had mostly divided it among priests, descendants of old kings, and feudal lords, in whose large estates slaves and serfs worked. The middle class included clerks, traders, artisans, and independent farmers. No special facts are known about them. Probably those papyrus papers from which information about them could be obtained have been destroyed. In the ancient kingdom, the royal family, feudal lords, and priests had the highest prestige, but the class system was surprisingly flexible. Every person could adopt any profession. Only the members of the royal family were deprived of this right. Serfs also often reached high positions, but there was a huge difference in the lifestyle of the people of the upper and lower classes. The upper-class people lived in large, airy buildings with dark-colored curtains on the windows and doors and heavy carpets on the floors. Their rooms were decorated with beautiful beds, chairs, and cupboards of ebony and vessels of precious stones, gold, silver, and copper. These buildings were surrounded by gardens and often an artificial pond where the householder entertained his friends and family. Their women wore modern-looking buns and used lipstick, perfumed oils, and cheek rouge. The men shaved but wore large wigs on their heads. The wig of the pharaoh was the largest. They often cut their hair to make it easier to wear the wig. Women also wore wigs. Both men and women wore simple, few but precious jewelry. Children below the age of 10 were often naked. On the contrary, the poor people lived in small huts in dirty neighborhoods where neither light could enter easily nor clean air was available. They usually had only 1 or 2 broken stools in the name of furniture, and only ugly earthen pots in the name of utensils. Family life. The unit of Mistri society was the family. Every person had a family. There was only one wife in the marriage and only her children inherited the family property. Pharaohs were also not an exception to this rule, but rich men kept many concubines. There was a tradition of brother-sister marriage in every section of Egyptian society, so there was usually a loving relationship between husband and wife from childhood. In Egyptian poetry, the words brother and sister have been used in the sense of lover and beloved. Many pictures expressing the sweetness of married life are found on the monuments of that time. Mutual bread among other members of the family was considered an essential quality. Reputation of women. Women enjoyed a very prestigious position in the friendly society. According to Max Muller, no other race gave such high legal respect to women as the Egyptians did. The opinion of the girl was taken while finalizing the marriage. In the marriage ceremony, the groom used to promise that he would obey his wife. After marriage, the wife was considered equal to the husband in every respect in the family. After the death of the father, his eldest daughter was the heir to his property, although this rule could be disregarded by writing a will. Probably this rule regarding inheritance was also the reason for the practice of brother-sister marriage. The lineage was carried on through the mother, and the relationship between the mother and maternal grandfather was considered closer than that between the father. Women also had considerable social freedom. In relief paintings, they have been shown participating in public feasts and festivals along with men, moving around freely and participating in business. They often took the initiative in love affairs as well. Many love letters written by Mistri women of later times to their lovers are available today. In Mistri society, adultery was considered extremely immoral and condemnable. In one book, an old Mistri advises young men to stay away from women who have come from abroad, or whose husbands have gone abroad because they are as inaccessible as the whirlpool of deep water. But despite this, there is no doubt that their idea of practical morality was very different from ours. They talked freely about sexual relations and engraved such literary works and relief pictures on the tombs of their ancestors for their entertainment, which would be called extremely obscene in our definition. Singers were in great demand in their society. They wore very transparent clothes. Sometimes they were satisfied even without them, wearing only a few ornaments on the hands, feet, and neck. Administrative status. The position of Pharaoh in Egyptian governance. It is clear from the above discussion that the Egyptian governance system was completely theocratic. The Egyptian kings were themselves considered gods, as they were the representatives of the sun god Re. After death, they were worshipped in the temple built in front of their pyramid. This belief became so strong over time that in the 4th century BC, Alexander also had to satisfy the Egyptian people by declaring himself as the son of Amun-Ra. His subjects were hesitant to even take his name, so he was often called Good God or Pharaoh, Pharaoh of the Bible. Originally, this name was used for his palace. He lived a very luxurious life. His eldest son often became the heir to the empire by marrying his sister. A large part of the state's income was spent on the maintenance of his harem and family. In theory, they were the supreme rulers of the state. They were not only the head of the state but also the supreme commander, supreme priest, and supreme judge. They appointed the highest officials of the empire. But in practice, the wishes of the feudal lords, priests, influential officials, and beloved queens, and the traditions of the state controlled their autocracy. They were considered the protectors of the law rather than its creators, so it was almost impossible for them to act against the law. At least the princes of the 4th dynasty worked hard as high officials or ministers. This gave them administrative experience, which they benefited from when they became rulers. They constantly paid attention to the daily problems of the state, read important letters themselves, and went with their council members to inspect public construction work. The main offices of the central government were in their palace. After the pharaoh, the most powerful person in the state was the prime minister. He was the chief architect of the state, the chief justice, and the head of the Royal Archives Museum. A large number of clerks and scribes worked in his office. He maintained coordination between the Central Archives Museum and the local archives museums. Apart from these, he also held many other posts. During the rule of the 4th dynasty, the crown prince was usually appointed to this post. Later, other princes and loyal feudal lords were also considered eligible for this. 3 ministers of the dynasty, Imhotep, Kagemne, and Tahotep, earned immense fame on the basis of their knowledge. Treasurer and Provincial System. Another important official of the Mithri state was the chief treasurer. He controlled the financial system of the entire country. Under him were 2 sub-treasurers who were responsible for digging mines and arranging for stones and such for the construction of royal palaces, temples, and pyramids. For administrative convenience, Egypt was divided into about 40 provinces. These were actually the ancient states which were integrated to form the first 2 states of the 1st dynasty, northern and southern. But now, these were ruled by governors appointed by the pharaoh instead of independent kings. The administrative system of these provinces was similar to the central administrative system. The treasury played the biggest role in establishing relations between the center and the provinces. The provincial governors collected taxes in the form of grains, honey, animals, and other things and deposited them in the central treasury. Their offices related to justice, land, and irrigation also remained in touch with the central government. Merits and demerits of the system of governance. The system of governance of the ancient state was surprisingly developed considering the antiquity of that era. Such a system could not be established in India till the Maurya era, and in Europe till the emergence of the Roman Empire. But like all the autocratic monarchies of the world, its success also depended on the ability of the kings. Secondly, the military power of the Egyptian state was very weak. Probably due to the country being surrounded by natural barriers, the Egyptian pharaohs felt themselves quite safe and did not keep any permanent army with them. In this matter, they completely depended on the temples and the armies of the provinces. The provincial armies were also often engaged in public construction work. In case of a serious military crisis, the pharaoh would quickly assemble the armies of the provinces and temples and hand them over to a capable officer. He did not have educated military officers. Civil officers were often military officers as well. Therefore, it was common for provincial governors to become ambitious when the pharaoh was incapable. Judicial system. Like military officers, there was no separate class of judges in Egypt. Usually, civil officers performed the duties of judges. In some cases, an application or appeal could be made to the pharaoh to consider the case. In the remaining cases, the chief minister of the state was the chief justice, and in the provinces, the governor. In order to fulfill judicial duties in the provinces, the local officers or judges were divided into 6 courts. Law and judicial process. The law collections of Mistri are not available these days, but it is clear that by the time of the rule of the 5th dynasty, their laws had become very complex, detailed, but clear. The oldest description of a case in the world is probably found in a letter available from Egypt. It is about a dispute regarding succession, and is now preserved in the British Museum. The working system of Egyptian courts was very advanced. There, both the plaintiff and the defendant had to support their respective sides and refute the arguments of the opponent in front of the judges, but not verbally, instead, in writing. The feeling of respecting the judiciary had also become quite strong. Even the members of the royal family were tried for their crimes as per the rules. There was no difference between political and ordinary crimes.